Welcome, you're watching Vox News, your daily evening news with Rita Kamkumo.
Our headlines today: Niger's government says it has thwarted an attempted coup d'etat just 2 days ahead of President-elect Mohamed Bazoum's inauguration. Ivory Coast's former president Laurent Gbagbo is free to go home after 10 years of absence after judges acquitted him on charges of crimes against humanity. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari is facing criticism at home over his latest medical trip to London. Our top story today: Niger's government announced Wednesday that an attempted coup d'etat had been blocked overnight, just 2 days before newly elected President Mohamed Bazoum's inauguration.
A coup attempt has been filed. An investigation has been opened. Investigations are continuing to identify and arrest the perpetrators and their accomplices in order to bring them to justice. The same applies to the internal and external commanders. Already, several people connected with this attempted coup have been detained and others are being actively sought. The government condemns this cowardly and regressive act, which sought to threaten democracy and the state of law to which our country is resolutely committed, as evidenced by the latest democratic, free and transparent elections, welcomed by the entire national and international community. In addition, the government informs the population that the situation is completely under control and consequently invites them to go about their daily business as normal.
The government's claims come after residents in the capital Niamey reported hearing overnight bursts of gunfire near the presidency, an information confirmed by security sources. The International Criminal Court Wednesday upheld the acquittal of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo and his right-hand man Ble Goude on crimes against humanity charges over 2010 post-election violence in Ivory Coast.
In the present appeal, the appeals chamber by majority has found no error that could have materially affected the decision of the trial chamber in relation to either of the prosecutor's 2 grounds of appeal. It therefore rejects the prosecutor's appeal and confirms the decision of the trial chamber. The appeals chamber hereby revokes all remaining conditions on the release of Mr. Gbagbo and Mr. Ble Goude as a result of this judgment.
Ble Goude expressed his joy after the court ruling, which paves the way for his return home after a decade away.
I'm a acquitted person, definitely speaking, and I thank all the people of Ivory Coast in Africa for their support. That's a personal question that I'll speak about maybe in the coming days. I'll speak with my family and then I'll speak with my lawyers and then you'll get the information back. But anyway, you hear it from the appeal chamber that there's no more condition for us, and then we're happy to hear it. It's been long, very long, but this is life. We have to go through this.
I think the judgment is legally totally correct, and of course you never know what the judges will do, because you saw the judges are in a way also divided on certain legal matters. But from the beginning it was clear that the prosecution appeal did not address the evidence. The evidence was no evidence.
Meanwhile, supporters of former President Laurent Gbagbo, who remain influential in Ivory Coast, welcomed the court's ruling in the capital city, Abidjan.
We say that the whole of Africa has just been liberated today. It's the whole of Africa, especially the Ivory Coast. That is why we have gone crazy. This day will remain engraved in our memories. Our prisoners will all be freed after Laurent Gbagbo. That's why we are going crazy.
He is no longer in the dock. He has been released. He has been acquitted. There is no other reason to put him in prison.
We have just learned that all the conditions against President Laurent Gbagbo and Ble Goude have been lifted. So, in conclusion, the appeal has been rejected. That is why I have this t-shirt, because we've known for a long time that the president would be freed. Thus, this appeal would be rejected.
The International Criminal Court dismissed a prosecution appeal against the original 2019 ruling to acquit Gbagbo and his former youth leader Ble Goude. The court revoked all remaining conditions on their release and ordered court authorities to ensure their safe transfer to any country ready to welcome them. President Muhammadu Buhari's latest medical trip to Britain is stirring controversy in Nigeria. The 78-year-old leader sparked an outcry after he flew to London on Tuesday for a medical checkup, with critics at home highlighting his frequent trips abroad for treatment and the country's weak health system. President Buhari travelled to London several times for checkups since he first took office in 2015. His frequent medical trips have sparked criticism about the government's transparency over his illness and raised leadership concerns during his absences. The opposition stressed that Buhari's medical trips abroad not only highlight the failure of Nigeria's healthcare system, but are a drain on the treasury. President Buhari is expected to be back home during the second week of April. On the security front, the African Union on Thursday called for urgent and coordinated regional and international action in northern Mozambique, where dozens of people were recently killed and thousands displaced in the city of Palma. The jihadists seized the coastal town last week, ransacking buildings, killing residents and displacing 8,000. Many more are still missing a week after the coordinated attack, considered the biggest escalation of an Islamist insurgency that broke out in Mozambique's gas-rich Cabo Delgado province in 2017. In neighboring Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa on Wednesday received a visit from Botswana's President Mokwetsi Masisi in his capacity as chairman of the Southern African Development Community Organ on Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation. The two leaders discussed the worsening security situation in northern Mozambique, where dozens of people were killed in coordinated jihadist attacks last week.
President Masisi is the current chairperson of the Troika. So he was briefing me about the security situation in the region, with particular emphasis on what is happening in Cabo Delgado.
We have formed views as a troika. One of them will result in taking this further so that we as SADC respond in a helpful manner to ensure that we assure the integrity and sovereignty of one of our own, never to be assaulted by dissident, rebellious and non-state actor forces.
Over 5,000 people have found refuge outside the northern Mozambican city of Palma a week after it was besieged by jihadists, as thousands remain stranded, according to the United Nations. In Libya, the authorities released 120 fighters under the command of Eastern military strongman Khalifa Haftar on Wednesday. The fighters were captured near the western city of Zaïwa in April 2019, when Haftar defied the United Nations by launching an offensive to seize the capital Tripoli from a unity government. Their release is the latest move towards a national reconciliation to end a decade of chaos and division in Libya. Libyan authorities have welcomed the move and appealed for further reconciliation and rebuilding in the country. On the international scene, the World Trade Organization chief Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala announced Wednesday that global trade is set for a sharp but uneven rebound this year after shrinking less than expected during the coronavirus pandemic last year.
The volume of world merchandise trade still contracted by 5.3% in 2020, but this contraction was smaller than initially feared. Following a sharp decline in the first half of the year, trade recovered more quickly than expected in the second half of 2020. This rebound has continued, and the WTO's baseline trade forecast foresees an 8% increase in the volume of world merchandise trade for 2021.
The international body also stressed that COVID-19 continues to pose the greatest threat to the outlook for trade, as new waves of infection could easily undermine any hoped-for recovery. On the sports scene, the Basketball Africa League is set to kick off in Rwanda's capital city, Kigali, in May, a year after being postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. The league's president confirmed the news on Tuesday.
I think the most important thing was to identify a place where we felt all the conditions were there in terms of safety and really, how the coronavirus pandemic have been managed. And this is why we choose to play in Kigali, single site where we're going to bring all the 12 teams. And it is true that this is the first time that the NBA is collaborating to launch a professional basketball league outside of North America. And Africa is the territory that was chosen, and it speaks volume about the potential that we see here for basketball development. I think first look to create interest, shine a spotlight on the sport, and grow the fan base. And yes, 1.2 billion people in Africa, and combine that with the incredible athletic talent that exists here. So we saw a unique opportunity to grow our sport and ultimately grow our business. I'm looking forward to, this historic league tipping off, showcasing Africa's talent in a safe and secure environment, produce an exciting brand of basketball that will be broadcasted to a Pan-African audience and a global audience, really getting Africa on the global stage.
Teams from Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Angola, Nigeria, Senegal, Cameroon, Madagascar, Mali, Mozambique and Rwanda will participate in the inaugural competition this spring.
That's it for today. Thank you for watching Vox News.